What happens when a law enforcement officer's wife gets caught shoplifting with her baby in a stroller? Does she get special treatment, or does justice apply equally to everyone? Today on TokRadar, we're diving deep into a shocking case from January 2025 that raises serious questions about privilege, accountability, and the choices people make when they think they're above the law. This is real body cam footage from Washington State, and what unfolds is more disturbing than you might think. Before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our in-depth breakdowns of real police encounters. On January 14th, 2025, officers in Washington State responded to a call at a Nordstrom department store. This wasn't your typical retail theft case. Loss prevention officers at the upscale retailer had been monitoring security cameras when they noticed something unusual: a woman pushing a baby stroller through the store. But she wasn't just shopping for her child. According to witness accounts and store security footage, the suspect had been moving systematically through the store, selecting merchandise and concealing items while her infant child sat in the stroller. The items in question? Designer footwear, specifically Crocs, and potentially other high-value merchandise from the store. But here's where this case takes a particularly disturbing turn. When confronted by loss prevention officers and subsequently by law enforcement, the woman made a statement that would set the tone for the entire encounter. She identified her husband as a member of the Washington State Patrol, allegedly serving in a specialized SWAT unit. The implication was clear: she believed this connection would grant her immunity from consequences. What this woman didn't realize was that every moment of her interaction with law enforcement would be captured on body cam footage, creating a permanent record of her actions and her attempts to leverage her husband's position for personal gain.
Me right now, okay?
I just have...
Okay, well, we're going to figure that out. Like I said, I'm going to have you come back to the loss prevention office with me. I'm not going to handcuff you because I don't want to cuff you in front of your baby, so if you could come with me. We'll talk about this all in a second. If you could come back to the office with me.
Yes, I'm sorry, but I'm not sure what do I have.
Well, you're being detained right now, so...
I have these.
Okay. Well, if you don't agree to come with me, then I'm going to put you in handcuffs. Stop.
Ma'am.
You're not free to go. I told you. You can come back to the office with me.
I know my rights.
No. I told you you're being detained. You want me to put you in handcuffs, or are you going to come
No.
Then are you going to come to the back office with me?
Why am I being detained?
Because suspicion of theft.
You do not have a right to do that.
You're being detained right now.
Ma'am, please stop. No. Stop.
Lincoln 3, I've got one resisting.
Stop.
Ma'am, stop. Can you grab her arm?
Please, my child. Stop.
And I
My
told you
child.
I didn't want to do this.
Okay.
You decided not to listen.
Ma'am. My child. My child.
Then cooperate.
stop.
Okay, I'm
Why are you
cooperating.
fighting with her?
Stop.
Knock it off.
You're going in handcuffs, so stop.
I'm not going to make a
Yes, you are.
You're done. Stop.
I already gave you that option.
Ma'am, stop.
You're gonna go to the ground. You're gonna go to the ground.
You're making your voice. So quit fighting.
Please do not handcuff me.
Then stop.
Please stop.
Stop, or you're gonna go to the ground.
Ma'am, my child.
I don't
handcuff
care.
My child.
Stop, or you're gonna go to the ground. Stop.
Ma'am, please stop. Please stop. My child.
Before we dive deeper into what happened, let's talk about the reality of shoplifting in America today. According to research published by the National Institutes of Health, approximately 11.3% of the US population has engaged in shoplifting at some point in their lifetime. That's more than 1 in 10 Americans. But here's what's fascinating and relevant to our case. Retail theft isn't just a crime of poverty. In recent years, security experts and researchers have documented a surprising trend: the rise of middle-class and affluent shoplifters. According to security industry reports, women from upper middle-class backgrounds represent a growing demographic of retail theft offenders. Why do people who can afford to pay for items choose to steal? Psychologists and criminologists have identified several key factors. Research shows that shoplifters often view stealing as a low-risk way to cope with physical, emotional, or economic stress. Some cite boredom, thrill-seeking behavior, or a desire for control. In a small percentage of cases, approximately 5%, the behavior stems from genuine psychiatric conditions like kleptomania. But the most common reasons? Financial hardship remains the #1 cited reason at 52% across all demographics. However, for affluent shoplifters, the motivations often include depression, obsessive-compulsive tendencies, or what psychologists call compensatory behavior, using theft as a way to address emotional voids in their lives. The annual cost of shoplifting to American retailers is staggering, approximately $12 billion per year. And who ultimately pays for that? We do, as consumers. Stores raise prices to compensate for their losses, creating a hidden tax on honest shoppers. Nordstrom, the store where this incident occurred, is known for having sophisticated loss prevention measures. As a high-end department store chain, Nordstrom invests heavily in security technology, including advanced surveillance camera systems, electronic article surveillance tags, and trained loss prevention personnel. However, Nordstrom also has something unique, a published customer bill of rights. According to this policy, which is publicly available on their website, Nordstrom requires its employees to respect the basic civil and legal rights of any person suspected of shoplifting or other crimes committed on store property. The policy explicitly states that Nordstrom strictly prohibits unreasonable searches or the profiling of customers by any employees. When loss prevention officers suspect shoplifting, they follow specific protocols. They must have clear evidence of theft, typically called the 5 steps in retail security. They must see the suspect approach the merchandise, select the merchandise, conceal or carry away the merchandise, maintain continuous observation to ensure they still have the merchandise, and observe the suspect fail to pay for the merchandise before leaving the store or passing the last point of sale. Only when all these elements are met will loss prevention officers detain a suspect and contact local law enforcement. The officers who respond then take over the investigation, gather evidence, interview witnesses and the suspect, and make decisions about charges based on the value of stolen merchandise and the suspect's cooperation.
This in the process that it's going to take, and it's not going to be quick. It's not going to be fast. So
He's not going to be okay.
Yeah, he's going to be just fine. So the next thing we need from you is to turn around, and you're going to be searched.
Do you have anything on you that's going to stick me, poke me, hurt me?
Come on, this side. Or
Widen your stance for me. You have anything on you that's going to stick me, poke me, hurt me?
I do have a firearm in my bag.
You have a firearm in your bag?
I also have a bill.
what's your son's name? Hey, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be alright, mister. Oh, it's gonna be okay.
Stop fidgeting with your cuffs.
Okay, baby.
Probably not.
I will be cooperative. I just want
You've
can
lost
I-
your chance for that.
Can I hold my child?
No, you cannot.
That's my personal belongings. You don't have a right to.
Yes, we do.
We do. You're under arrest right now.
Sir,
This way. Now.
Take a seat.
I am not.
Sit.
Please understand.
No, I'm done.
Why are you doing this?
Yeah, thank you.
Come here, mister. Come here. Yeah, hold on a second. Phone call. Hey. We're just outside of Nordstrom on the north side. Perfect. Pacifier.
These are it?
What's your plan?
Well, I've never had to deal with baby before.
Understanding the legal framework is crucial to this case. In Washington state, theft offenses are classified into 3 degrees, with the severity determined primarily by the value of stolen property. Third-degree theft, which is what applies to this case, covers property or services valued at $750 or less. This is classified as a gross misdemeanor under Washington law RCW 9, a 56.05. While it's not a felony, the penalties are serious. A conviction for third-degree theft can result in up to 364 days in jail, fines up to $5,000, court-ordered restitution to the victim, up to 2 years of probation, and a permanent criminal record. Beyond the legal penalties, a theft conviction can have devastating long-term consequences. It can make employment difficult, particularly in fields requiring trust and security clearances. It can affect professional licenses, which is particularly relevant for this case, as the suspect identified herself as a nurse. Many state nursing boards consider theft convictions as grounds for license, suspension, or revocation. Retailers in Washington also have the right to pursue civil penalties in addition to criminal charges. Under Washington law, they can seek to recover the retail value of stolen merchandise up to $2,850, plus an additional penalty of at least $100, but not more than $650. In this case, the suspect also faced an additional charge: obstructing a law enforcement officer under RCW 9, a 76.02. This charge applies when a person willfully hinders, delays, or obstructs any law enforcement officer in the discharge of their official powers or duties. This is also a gross misdemeanor, punishable by up to 364 days in jail and fines up to $5,000. Why was this charge added? Based on the body cam footage descriptions circulating online, the suspect apparently resisted or failed to cooperate with officers during the detention and investigation process. According to multiple sources reporting on this incident, the woman caught shoplifting identified herself as a nurse by profession. Her husband, she claimed, worked for the Washington State Patrol, possibly in a specialized SWAT capacity, both professions that demand high ethical standards and public trust. This creates a particularly troubling dimension to the case. Law enforcement officers and medical professionals are held to elevated standards of conduct, both on and off duty. The spouses and families of these professionals, while not bound by the same professional codes, often understand that their actions can reflect on their partner's career and reputation. The fact that she brought her infant child along while committing retail theft adds another layer of concern. Child welfare advocates and psychologists have long warned about the impact of involving children in criminal activity. Whether the child is aware or not, using a baby stroller as cover for shoplifting exposes the child to risk and normalizes criminal behavior. Multiple reports indicate that the suspect appeared to hit more than one store during this shopping trip. Besides Nordstrom, sources suggest she may have also taken merchandise from American Eagle Outfitters, another retailer commonly found in Washington state shopping malls. This suggests a pattern of behavior rather than an impulsive mistake. This is where we need to address a critical question. Was this a one-time lapse in judgment or part of a larger pattern? Often, by the time someone is caught shoplifting, it's not their first offense, it's just the first time they've been caught. Retail security experts estimate that professional and habitual shoplifters may successfully steal dozens of times before being apprehended. When a law enforcement officer's family member is arrested, it creates a unique ethical situation for all involved. Police departments across the country have policies designed to prevent conflicts of interest and ensure equal application of the law. According to law enforcement ethics guidelines, officers typically have a duty to recuse themselves from cases involving family members due to obvious conflicts of interest. When this woman invoked her husband's position with Washington State Patrol, she was essentially attempting to activate what's known as professional courtesy, an informal practice where law enforcement officers may give preferential treatment to other officers or their families. However, professional courtesy, when it crosses the line into obstruction of justice or special treatment in criminal cases, becomes deeply problematic. It undermines public trust in law enforcement and violates the fundamental principle that justice should be blind to status, connections, or privilege. The FBI's Law Enforcement Bulletin, which provides guidance on ethics in policing, emphasizes that ethical behavior in law enforcement must be consistent both on and off duty. This extends to how officers' families conduct themselves and whether they attempt to exploit law enforcement connections for personal benefit. Research on police misconduct and ethics published by the Department of Justice notes that agencies must be vigilant about various forms of misconduct, including theft, abuse of authority, and actions that bring the profession into disrepute. When an officer's spouse attempts to use their connection to avoid accountability, it places the officer in a compromised position and potentially implicates them in ethical violations. In this case, the officers responding to the Nordstrom had to navigate a delicate situation. They needed to conduct a professional investigation without showing favoritism, while also being aware that their actions would be scrutinized precisely because of the suspect's family connection. The body cam footage becomes crucial evidence not just of the suspect's actions, but of how officers handled a situation where they might face pressure to give special treatment. Professional law enforcement organizations emphasize that the badge doesn't extend to family members, and officers must not allow personal relationships to interfere with their duty to uphold the law equally for all citizens. Major shopping malls in Washington state, such as Westfield South Center in Tukwila, Tacoma Mall, and Alderwood Mall in Linwood, typically house both Nordstrom and American Eagle stores. These facilities employ multi-layered security approaches, combining technology and personnel. Modern retail security systems include high-definition surveillance cameras with facial recognition capabilities, electronic article surveillance systems that trigger alarms when merchandise with active security tags passes through store exits, license plate recognition systems in parking lots, and databases that track known shoplifters and organized retail crime members. When loss prevention officers observe suspicious behavior, they follow strict observation protocols to ensure they have legally defensible evidence before making a detention. In this case, security footage would have captured the suspect's movements throughout the store, showing her selecting merchandise, concealing items in or around the baby stroller, and attempting to leave without paying. It's worth noting that many shoplifters use strollers, large bags, or baggy clothing to conceal stolen merchandise. Retail security personnel are trained to watch for specific behavior patterns. Customers who repeatedly look around to check if they're being watched, who handle merchandise in unusual ways, who visit dressing rooms with multiple items but return empty-handed, or who seem more focused on store personnel than on the merchandise they're supposedly shopping for. Once loss prevention made the stop and confirmed the theft, they would have detained the suspect in a security office, inventoried the stolen merchandise, documented the incident with photographs and written reports, and contacted local police to file criminal charges. The merchandise in question, Crocs, footwear, and potentially other items, would need to be valued to determine the appropriate criminal charges. Even though individual Crocs might seem relatively inexpensive, multiple pairs or additional stolen items could quickly approach the $750 threshold that separates third-degree theft from second-degree theft. When officers arrived at the scene with their body cams activated, they would have been briefed by loss prevention officers about what was observed and the evidence collected. The body cam footage, which has been widely shared on social media and body cam footage channels, documents the entire encounter. Based on descriptions from those who have viewed the footage, the interaction reveals several key moments that illuminate the suspect's mindset and behavior. First, there's the initial contact where officers explain why they're there and what the allegations are. The suspect's demeanor during this phase can tell us a lot about her awareness of wrongdoing and her strategy for dealing with the situation. Second, there's the identification phase where she reveals her husband's position with Washington State Patrol. This appears to have been a deliberate attempt to influence how officers would handle the case. The suspect may have believed that mentioning this connection would result in the matter being dropped or handled informally. Third, there's the discussion about the stolen merchandise. Officers would have asked the suspect to explain her actions, giving her an opportunity to provide her account of what happened. Some reports indicate she claimed she didn't think she would get caught, suggesting awareness that her actions were wrong, but a miscalculation about the likelihood of consequences. Fourth, there's the charge of obstructing a law enforcement officer, which indicates that at some point during the encounter, the suspect resisted or failed to comply with lawful orders from the officers. This could include refusing to provide identification, attempting to leave the scene, providing false information, or physically resisting detention. Throughout the encounter, officers had to balance several competing concerns: conducting a thorough and professional investigation, treating the suspect with dignity and following proper procedures, being aware of the scrutiny this case would receive due to the law enforcement connection, and ensuring that justice was applied equally without favoritism. The presence of the infant child added another dimension to the encounter. Officers would need to ensure the child's safety and well-being, potentially requiring them to contact Child Protective Services or arrange for another adult to care for the child if the mother was taken into custody. Body cam footage in cases like these serves multiple purposes. It protects officers from false accusations of misconduct, provides evidence for criminal prosecution, documents that proper procedures were followed, and creates public transparency about how law enforcement handles sensitive situations. This case raises important questions that extend far beyond one woman's poor decision to shoplift from a department store. It touches on issues of privilege, accountability, professional ethics, and the equal application of justice. When people in positions of trust or married to people in positions of trust commit crimes, the betrayal of that trust is compounded. A nurse who steals violates the ethical foundation of a profession built on caring and integrity. The spouse of a law enforcement officer who attempts to leverage that connection for personal gain undermines the legitimacy of law enforcement itself. Research on white-collar crime and crimes by privileged individuals shows that the perception of getting away with wrongdoing can create a dangerous cycle. When people believe their status exempts them from consequences, they're more likely to engage in increasingly serious violations of law and ethics. The impact on the husband's career could be significant. While he's not directly responsible for his wife's actions, law enforcement agencies take these matters seriously. Depending on the department's policies and the specifics of the case, he could face administrative review, ethics investigations, or consequences if it's determined that he was aware of or involved in any way with her criminal behavior. For the child involved in this incident, the long-term impact is harder to measure but potentially significant. Being present during a parent's arrest, even as an infant, introduces trauma and instability into the child's life. If criminal convictions result, the family may face financial hardship from fines, restitution, and potential loss of professional income. The case also highlights the ongoing challenge retailers face with theft. While $12 billion in annual losses might seem abstract, it translates to real impacts: reduced profit margins for businesses, job losses as retailers close unprofitable locations, increased prices for consumers, and a strain on the criminal justice system. Some criminal justice reform advocates argue that low-level theft offenses are over-criminalized and that diversion programs, mental health treatment, or community service might be more appropriate responses than criminal prosecution. Others counter that shoplifting, regardless of the offender's background or the value of stolen goods, is a crime that erodes the social contract and must be prosecuted to maintain deterrence. What could have prevented this situation? At the individual level, if the suspect was dealing with mental health issues, financial stress, or other problems that contributed to her decision to shoplift, early intervention and support might have made a difference. If boredom or thrill-seeking was the motivation, healthier outlets for those impulses could have been found. At the family level, open communication about ethics, stress, and behavior could create accountability. If the husband was aware of any warning signs or previous incidents, addressing them directly could have prevented escalation. At the societal level, reducing the stigma around mental health issues and making treatment more accessible could address some of the root causes of shoplifting behavior. Economic policies that reduce financial stress on families could eliminate one of the primary motivations for retail theft. As this case moves through the criminal justice system, the suspect faces several possible outcomes. If convicted of both third-degree theft and obstructing a law enforcement officer, she could face up to 728 days in jail, though sentences are typically served concurrently, not consecutively, and up to $10,000 in fines, restitution to Nordstrom for the value of stolen merchandise, probation conditions that might include theft education classes, community service, and drug and alcohol testing, and the permanent criminal record that will follow her for life. Alternatively, if this is a first offense and she accepts responsibility, she might be eligible for a deferred prosecution or diversion program. These programs allow defendants to avoid a conviction by completing specific requirements such as theft education classes, community service, restitution to the victim, and a period of probation during which they must not commit any new offenses. For her professional license as a nurse, she'll need to report the arrest and any conviction to the Washington State Nursing Commission. Depending on the outcome and her level of honesty and responsibility in addressing the situation, she could face sanctions ranging from a formal reprimand to suspension or permanent revocation of her license. The impact on her husband's career will depend on his agency's policies and his own conduct. If he had no knowledge of or involvement in her criminal activity, and if he cooperates fully with any investigation, he may face no professional consequences. However, if he attempted to interfere with the investigation or use his position to influence the outcome, he could face disciplinary action up to and including termination. What can we learn from this troubling case? Several key lessons emerge. First, privilege is not immunity. Having connections to law enforcement, wealth, professional status, or social standing does not place anyone above the law. In fact, people in positions of trust have an even greater obligation to model ethical behavior. Second, cameras are everywhere. Modern retail environments are saturated with surveillance technology. The belief that I won't get caught is increasingly delusional. Between store cameras, loss prevention personnel, and police body cams, criminal behavior is likely to be documented from multiple angles. Third, children should never be involved in criminal activity. Using a baby stroller to conceal stolen merchandise or bringing a child along during the commission of a crime is a form of child endangerment that compounds the seriousness of the offense. Fourth, small crimes can have large consequences. What might have seemed like a minor theft of footwear and clothing has resulted in criminal charges, potential jail time, professional license issues, family disruption, and permanent damage to reputation and trust. Fifth, integrity matters more than status. The measure of a person's character isn't their job title, their spouse's position, or their social standing. It's the choices they make when they think no one is watching, or in this case, when they mistakenly believe their connections will shield them from accountability. For those watching this video who may have struggled with shoplifting or other theft behaviors, it's important to know that help is available. Cognitive behavioral therapy has been shown to be effective in addressing compulsive theft behaviors. Support groups and counseling can address underlying issues like depression, anxiety, or trauma that may contribute to criminal behavior. If financial hardship is driving theft behavior, community resources exist to provide assistance. Food banks, emergency financial assistance programs, and social services can help families get through difficult times without resorting to crime. The case of the Washington State Trooper's wife caught shoplifting at Nordstrom with her baby in a stroller is a stark reminder that justice must be blind to privilege and connections. The bodycam footage that captured this encounter serves as both evidence in a criminal case and as a public record of how the equal application of law is supposed to work. As this case proceeds through the legal system, it will undoubtedly continue to generate discussion about ethics, accountability, and the responsibilities that come with professional status and family connections to law enforcement. For those of us watching from the outside, it's a sobering reminder to examine our own choices and behavior. We all face moments of temptation, stress, or poor judgment. The difference between people who maintain their integrity and those who compromise it often comes down to a single decision in a critical moment. The officers who responded to this call performed their duty professionally, treating the suspect fairly while conducting a thorough investigation. The bodycam footage they captured ensures transparency and accountability on all sides. What do you think about this case? Should the suspect face the full penalty of the law, or should her lack of criminal history and status as a mother be considered mitigating factors? Do law enforcement agencies do enough to ensure that officers and their families understand the ethical standards expected of them? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this deep dive into the case informative, make sure to subscribe to TokRadar for more in-depth analysis of real police encounters. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. And if you want to support the channel and help us continue bringing you this detailed content, check out our Patreon link in the description. Remember, the bodycam doesn't lie. It captures the truth in real time, creating a permanent record of how justice works or sometimes fails to work in America. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next video.